again. Second try. I'm calling Michael Gala.
Yes, hello. Now it should work, I hope. Thank you very much, and thanks for the explanation where we stand. My opinion definitely is what we have seen in Tanzania, this election, was a travesty of democracy, and it's not the first time. Last time already, I have been in close contact with Chadema, with the opposition, and in between the time as well. They have been under constant pressure. Democracy has been systematically dismantled in Tanzania, and what we see, the result is not surprising. I mean, it's around Lukashenko style, more than 80% results, with all the ingredients that have been hinted at, in which way the opposition was prevented from having a level playing field. Well, not having a level playing field is a bit even harmless in the description. My question is, are we still giving budget support to Tanzania? And if so, are we willing to stop it? In these given circumstances, such a government that is behaving in such a way, they cannot be trusted that they will use the funds that we give into their budget, that they will use it in a proper way. I think if we still give budget support, we should come back to project aid and give it through channels where we can trust it is used for the designed purpose and does not profit those who are performing in such an awful way. And it's not only on election day, but otherwise as well. Thank you.
Statsborg, you have the floor. Please press the speak button.
Does it work? Does it work now?
It's okay.
Yes, I think it does. Thanks a lot, Mr. President. Very briefly from my side, and from the Commission side, obviously the members of the AFET will be aware that the last 2 years we have had a relatively difficult relationship with Tanzania since the expulsion of our head of delegation some years back. And since then we have been struggling a little bit both with what I would call the political dialogue. There has been several attempts from the side of the EU to reach out to the authorities of Tanzania, and they have not really accepted that invitation for dialogue. We have also been struggling a little bit at our level with the policy dialogue in relation to our programs and our actions that we are funding in Tanzania. This has resulted in the decision to reduce the multi-annual indicative program for Tanzania with 64 million under the 11th EDF, and it also resulted in our decision not to use budget support under the 11th EDF. We had some ongoing programs that we were still implementing, but indeed no new budget support. We will obviously also, together with the member states, when we enter into the programming process for Indiki, take into account the degree of political dialogue and the buy-in we are getting. And I think there are some very early indications that, for instance, the use of budget support will not be an option for us in the coming years in Tanzania unless we see a fundamental improvement in the political dialogue. Also, we are keen to look more into actions that are obviously supporting directly the population of Tanzania, the private sector that Mr. Kantan was mentioning. So the elections is obviously very worrying, but it does also reflect a little bit a general trend we have seen the last 2 years that are of a big concern to us. I stop there, Mr. President.
Ongoing situation in Tanzania, and I came across that in September this year, Council President Charles Michel committed to provide Tanzania with 27 million euros to combat the effects of COVID. Now, my question is, what were the criteria required from Tanzania to fulfill in order to benefit from aid dedicated to the fight against COVID? Because the regime in Dar es Salaam has announced that apparently the country is corona-free. The government in Dar es Salaam has refused to provide statistics on COVID. The government in Dar es Salaam has refused to follow WHO guidelines and has stated publicly that 3 days of national prayer has saved the country from the pandemic. So what's your take on this? And has the EU delegation addressed these issues? Colleagues, I put this country on our agenda today because I think the developments are very concerning. And as previous speakers have pointed out, we expect the European Union to be very clear and vocal on these unacceptable developments in the country. And I would also like to once again underline that our EU delegation on the ground also has a responsibility to support those brave people who are defending human rights and are fighting for values we hold high in the European Union, and we want them to be global values. So I would like to hear some clear words now from you, Mr. Canton, and also from you, Mr. Stausbol.